Hi folks, what's going on? How are you today? I hope y'all are having an amazing day wherever you are. In my neck of the woods, it is raining. It has been raining all day and I don't know when it's gonna stop. I even had a nightmare when I took a nap, you guys, today. I had a nightmare that the rain came all the way up to my floor. I live on the second floor of my building, and I had a dream that the water came all the way up, and it wasn't so bad to where it crashed into the windows or anything. But I swear there's a part of me that started to panic. But here we are. How are y'all? Welcome to Sips and Chill with RJ. Sips and chill, sips and chill, sips and chill, sips and chill with RJ. Sips and chill. If you had a long day and you need a drink, pour yourself a glass of wine. Have a seat. Whether a wine or some glass, wear a wine glass or some juice or some water to go. Just pull up a chair and enjoy the show. Sips and chill, sips and chill. Sips and chill, sips and chill. It's still a work in progress on the rap. I tell y'all, I got some skills. I got a little skills. Just a few, but come on. Split over me. Now, what am I going to talk about today? I think it's time to talk about movies. What movie are we going to discuss? Is this something new I should do? Or should I do something older? Like movies that excited me as a child or a young adult. Like Pirates of the Caribbean or Back to the Future or Beverly Hills Cop, which is my all-time favorite movie. Or should I talk to you guys about something else? Halloween is coming up and I am going to definitely be doing horror movies. I wish I could do like a horror movie a day, like 31 days. Or like each individual movie I'm going to watch, but I know I'm not going to have the strength to do that. Not with the way my schedule is in my personal life. So, not possible. I wish it were possible. But it's not. Anyway. What movie are we going to talk about? What movie gets you guys excited? What movie makes your heart race? What movie gets you guys like... I can't wait to go home. Just I can put this into the DVD player. No one does VHS anymore. I'm telling y'all my age now. Oh goodness, it's just so crazy. See, I remember I told y'all I have no glasses, so it's like I'm so used to just like pushing them up sometimes because they fall over my nose, believe it or not. But I have no idea what to talk about. Like which movie. I had like a plan, but it didn't fall through. It'll be another time. So, what movie? Have you guys ever watched the movie Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell and Arye back in the 1980s? I don't remember what year. I think it's 1987. I think it was one of the great films of 1987, but then it's not. It's actually known as one of the most racist films of all time. And I'm like, what? I get where people come from when they say one of the most, not the most. I think the most racist movie of all time is Birth of a Nation, the original one where... Yeah. I say you guys should go look that one up. That one is crazy. But it's back in the silent film time when that movie came out. And I understand why. So let's talk about Soul Man. I love C. Thomas Howell. The first time I saw C. Thomas Howell, it was The Outsiders. And that was in 83. I'm not that old. But that experienced. I was in 8th grade and we were doing the study on The Outsiders in class, and it became one of my favorite books, one of my obsessions, not like my old obsession, but it was one of my obsessions. And I was like, I don't want to say I was crushing on each of the individual outsiders or anything. Ralph Macchio, I wasn't like, I didn't have like a big crush on him, yet he's the only one out of all of them that looks the youngest. My crush mainly was with Matt Dillon, who played Dallas. Oh my goodness, Matt Dillon. I love Matt Dillon. He just turned 60 and he still is such a babe. And then you guys see Thomas Howell, and I was going through his movie catalog when I got to college, and I was like, ooh, must watch, must see, interesting. And then there was this movie called Soul Man, and I was like, what is this about? And it was interesting. So if you have not seen this movie, and it came out in 1985, I believe, 1986, 87, you need to stop my video now you need to go find a way to go watch it. I'm sure if you have Google Play or Google Plus or something, you can watch it for a few dollars, and then you can come back and you can agree or disagree with me on my synopsis. It's completely up to you. So, moreover, on Soul Man, the movie came out in 1986. It's starring C. Thomas Howell, Arye, Chong plays in the movie. James Earl Jones plays in the movie. Leslie Nielsen plays in the movie. It's a good hefty cast. There's some people you probably would recognize. There are people I recognize. I can't give you the names off the bat though, but I recommend you go watch it. So, spoiler alert, because this movie is almost 40 years old. It's 39 years old. From 86 to 2024, it's almost 40 years old. Give it a few more years. So the movie is about Mark Watson, played by C. Thomas Howell. He is a California kid. He is a rich kid. He is kind of a snobby kid. But the movie starts and he's laying in bed, and then they got Mannish Boy playing, or no, Hoochie Coochie Man playing by Muddy Waters. He turns it off. There's a girl in the bed. His best friend, Gordo, played by Arye. If y'all don't know who Arye is, you guys are missing out. I had a little crush on him too. He plays in one of my favorite horror movie, House 2, The Second Story, which I will be talking about next month. So, he comes in, he gives Mark a letter, and it's their letters about Harvard Law. They were trying to get into Harvard Law. They were doing little community college in California, and then they pressed on to go to Harvard Law, and they had everything there. So this is the big day of truth. And they open their letters, and they're like, I got in. Yes! Harvard freaking Law School. There's some cussing in there. I'm going to try to keep it PG instead of doing the PG-13 version that they actually had for the movie. So they get excited, they throw themselves a party, and they're making their plans for the future. And then that's the next scene. And then the next scene after that, Mark goes to his parents' house, letting them know that he has gotten into Harvard Law, just like he's always wanted, and to fulfill his dreams to become a lawyer and then retire when he's in his 40s, and then go into the islands with his best friend and get married and all that good jazz. So then his father is like on his elliptical doing his back, and he said, you know what I want to do, son, for you? And he's like, you want to buy me a Porsche? Oh God, I can't take it. Then he was like, no, I want to give you your manhood. And he was like, so what does that mean, Dad? He said, I'm not going to pay for you to go to college. And then he's like, what? No, I'm not paying you for go to college. You're going to find your own way. You are a man now. You need to find your own way to get into college. And he's like, that's not necessary. And then he's like, I think it is. And I'm going to use the money to go in the Spanish Riviera with your mom, because we deserve it for all the hard work we did raising you and putting up with you. So then he spends the next 5 minutes of the movie trying to figure out how the hell he's going to get into Harvard Law School, because he doesn't know what to do. His dad just literally swept the rug from under him and took that away from him. So him and his best friend, they're looking up everything, scholarships and grant money. He even tries to take a loan out. He goes to financial aid and calls them on the phone, and he's like, my parents aren't giving me any money. And then he said, they hung up on him. He's like, thank you. And then his best friend's like, what did they say? We only give money to those who are poor, not whose parents are assholes. Then it's like, well, fact. There's a scene before this where he has a rope, a noose, and he's like, it's $32,000. And it's like he just wants to jump in head first. And his best friend's like, are you being a little dramatic? He's like, no. But then what he does is he takes a Cabbage Patch Kid that looks like his dad, and he hangs it. So then they're looking for it, and while they're looking for scholarships in a book, for a California scholarship to go to any major Ivy League school in the country. And then they were like, oh, applicant. And then he reads and he's like, black applicant, you dumbass. And then he's like, he's at the end of his leash. There's a guy that they are not really friends with, and he's like a total spaz. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to take your spot since you can't go. And he's like, oh no, I'm going. And then he was like, his friend's looking at him like, how? And he's like, well, there's a will, there's a way. Don't worry about it. And then he's like, okay. And then he said, how are you going to get $32,000 by next week? Your father's not giving it to you. Financial aid's not giving it to you. And your grandfather's in Forest Lawn, as in he's dead, y'all. You're not getting it. The next part, he looks at the camera in a complete act of desperation. We see the next scene, and he is not the white boy that we saw. He is, in fact, now a black boy with a jerry curl. And then the only person he tells that knows what he's doing is his best friend, Gordo. And Gordo had to know because Gordo had to actually be his advocate through the ups and the downs of Harvard Law School. And in this, he was like, you can't do this though, Mark. This is crazy. And he's like, America loves black people. It's the Cosby decade. I'm going to be fine. Now, let me also mind y'all, he's in California. California is a little different than Massachusetts. But he learns quick. Not quick enough, but quick. Next scene, they're playing the song Soul Man as they're driving through the town of Boston, Massachusetts. I believe that's where Harvard is. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they had an apartment that they paid for. And it's owned by Leslie Nielsen. And Leslie Nielsen says this black boy with this white boy hanging out. And it's like, do I have to worry about this? And one of the guys that's helping them move in, he's like, well, you know, they didn't tell us. He was like, and Gordo's like, tell you what? And he's like, that's your friend. What about my friend? And then he was like, that he's a black Negro. He's like, Mark, a black Negro? Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. Oh, sir. Like, he was being very like obnoxious about it because it's like, you're being obnoxious. He's a piece of work. And he's like, Mark, we're going to have to watch out for him. And then Leslie Nielsen's daughter, she's a famous actress. It's like, it starts with an M, like Mel something. Really pretty. Just, I don't know, like she started to develop a crush on Mark. And then they start going to school, finding their classes. Mark takes a class. His main class is with Chong, who in real life actually became his wife later for a brief time. They dated for a long time. They got married, and they were only married for like 6 months. And then they got a divorce. And it's crazy. But I'm jumping the gun. Anyway. He joined James Earl Jones' class thinking that he was going to get black privilege. There is no such thing, by the way. We have privileges, but there is no such thing as black privilege. But he literally took his class thinking that he was going to accept him. But Mark quickly learns while he is at this college that people just don't like, there are people who really don't like us. They are either making ignorant black jokes. They are either being completely obnoxious, or he's getting profiled by a cop. There's a cop that literally was tailing him just to see if he was going to make a mistake on the road. Really. And it was like, wow. Someone opened their car door and he swerved to miss it. But when he swerved, it was a quick swerve. Anybody could have made this quick swerve. But he made this quick swerve. He didn't turn on his blinker. And the cop stopped him immediately. He could not give him his license because his license is when he was white and he is black. So therefore it's like, I'm sorry, I forgot my license. What are you going to do? Arrest me? And guess what he does? He puts him in prison with some racist ball players. And they beat him up. And he was late for class. And then he told James Earl Jones, I would think you would understand. Then he said, you will not get any special privilege from me. So if you have to study just like any of these white little shits, you're going to have to do it. And the next time you go to jail, if it happens, and being that you're black, it could possibly happen. Call me and you can do your homework in school if you have to. In jail. And Chong, he develops a crush on her. And they ended up kind of like doing this beautiful, like, romantic connection. He has, before they hook up officially, though, he hooks up with Whitney, who's played by Leslie. So her name is Melora Hardin, something like that. She played on the Dirty Dancing TV show that they did after the movie, which is like whack to me. She also is known as playing the second Trudy Monk on the hit show Monk with Tony Soluba, sorry. Love that show. And she mainly only dated Mark because he was black. To see if all the rumors were true, if you know what I mean. It was crazy. So she invited him to her parents' house, family's house really, because she had a little brother. And in their mind, there's a way they think about Mark, and it's all these different realities and things. It didn't work out. He's like, I can't be with Whitney. When he was talking to Ray Dong Chong's character, her name's Sarah. That's what her name is, Sarah Walker. And he falls in love with Sarah, and it's really cute and it's really sweet. It is definitely not lusty like it was with Whitney's character. It's like, okay. Anyway, she invites Mark to meet. Well, he met her son because she would do to pay for her tuition and everything. She also did hours in the kitchen and ended up meeting her grandparents, and they were like, we're happy that she's found a fun young black man like you. And then he's kind of like, I hope they don't mind, because I'm not. But I look it. Anyway, they have a little cute kiss in the snow, and then it turns out he was like, you've never seen the snow before? She was like, I've seen it on mountains, but I'm from California. I'm from Los Angeles. I forgot what part of California she said she was from, but he's like, oh, I'm from LA. And then she was like, it was you. And he was like, what was me? She was like, well, I was going to get a scholarship for California for the black students, but they gave it to you. And then he said, I thought it was only for LA. She was like, that's only if no one qualifies. Then it goes statewide. But because you qualified, they took it from me. And then he was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And then she was like, don't worry about it. I'm happy it was you. And then it was like, she was like, she made a joke because how the snow was falling on him, and he got scared kind of. And she was like, you're turning white. And then he's like, oh God. And then he tells his best friend that he messed up. He messed up royally. And he doesn't know what to do. So the next step is to confess that he in fact is white and not black. And Gordo was like, don't do it, Mark, because we've come this far. We're almost done with first semester. And then he said, there's like, I can't do this anymore. He goes, and then he meets with Professor, I forgot where James Earl Jones' name is in this, but James Earl Jones said he wanted him to be a part of the black committee. And then he was like, okay. Then it was an honor. It was a big honor, especially at Harvard Law. So he didn't give it up, and he was embarrassed, and it was bad. And then turns out that other boy that was with the Dreyfus lady, Mary Louise Dreyfus, or the woman that played Elaine on Seinfeld. She was in the hallway, and Mark, anytime she came by, Mark would do this thing where he put on the sunglasses and he'd be like, I can't hear. And they would have to yell, and he'd be like, and he'd do fake sign language, not knowing what any sign language was. And they found out that an applicant for the black was Mark. And they're like, Mark is not black. Mark is in fact white. And he was going to get him thrown out of school. Then there's this whole hullabaloo. His parents come to visit. Whitney's in his room. And Sarah comes over to study and to have dinner. And it's all this stuff going on. So Mark tries to hide from his parents by putting on a ski mask and gloves. And all they can see is his eyes, because his eyes have always been the same color. And it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. And then he had to confess to his parents what he did. He tried to confess to Sarah what he did. And then they were going to kick him out of school. So then later, Gordo and him make plans to save his butt at the last minute. So Gordo does this whole speech, like, should we really judge him for his moral delinquencies and the color of his skin? And all the black people in the room are like, oh, what did he just say? He's like, I don't think so. Then he's like, Mark Watson, come on down. Big reveal, Mark is in fact white. Everybody James Earl Jones stands up from his seat. Sarah is in like this point of shock, like, how could he? And then all the other kids around school that knew Mark, they were like, no wonder, it makes sense. It makes sense. No wonder, no wonder. Like, he played basketball with some kids. This was the stereotype that all black people actually are athletic when we're not. We usually, there's a lot of athletic people in the black community, yes, but that's not to say there aren't any athletic people anywhere else. But usually stick to what you know is what you would do or you should do. And then what happened was a lot of people were shocked at this. He wanted to give the scholarship to Sarah, or at least the remaining of the scholarship that pays for the rest of her time at Harvard. And James Earl Jones and him had a conversation. He said, there's only one thing I cannot teach each and every individual student. You learned what it is to be black. And he was like, no, sir, I haven't. He's like, I beg your pardon. He's like, I can change back. I could have changed anytime I wanted to. But I don't truly know how it is to be black. He's like, you learned more than I thought you did. You know what? We're not going to expel you. You can stay. And then he was like, really? Thank you, sir. And then he was just like, James Earl Jones knew he was a good student because he saw his hard work. He knew what he went through. He knew he couldn't go through everything. And then Sarah and Mark end up having this beautiful heart-to-heart. There was a question he asked her earlier on when that debacle at his apartment and Gordo's apartment happened. How do you feel about interracial relationships? And then she was like, why do you ask? He asked again. At the end of the movie, she said, I have never been in an interracial relationship. I never found a white man that attractive to be one, and I don't think I'd be interested. Then these two jerks that always said these really racist black jokes and just be like, oh, no offense, we're just joking. Knowing exactly what they were doing, said something to her and her son. And then Mark was like, what? He loved her son. It was such a sweet thing. And he punched the hell out of him. What? Pow, pow. And then he's like, no offense. And they were like, wow, he stood up. Like, he good people. And then Sarah was like, he stood up for me. He stood up for my son. Then she gave him another chance. And she was like, well, if two people really love each other, then it doesn't matter, does it? He's like, oh, yeah? And then her son was like, yep. And then she was like, well, let's get you something to eat because you got to eat, right? And he's like, Sarah, this is Harvard. I don't have to eat. I don't have to sleep. I just have to study. Because it's the same thing that she told him. I don't have to eat, sleep. I just have to study. And they walk out into the snowy sunset. The end. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorites. Like I said, they put this on one of the most racist movie lists of all time. Rotten Tomato gave it a 17. I find it a comedy. I had my test audience, my family, watch this movie, and my cousin was like, this is interesting. And my mom and my aunt, they were like, this is interesting. It's funny. It's good. It's lighthearted, but it was also a reality hitter. It's not easy being black. This is the realities we have to live in. And the reality is, like he said, he could change back anytime he wanted. Now, I give this movie an A. Because like I said, Mark wasn't racist. He did not know the reality. And he had to find out the reality. He does it out of a pure act of desperation. And he learns the hard way. Hey, it's not easy. Not easy living at all. Just make sure, like... You want to really join this side? When it comes to the protesting of Black Lives Matter, he knows what the meaning is now. It is such a good... I love this movie. I watch it from time to time. And like I said, I had a big crush on C. Thomas Howell. And I am down with a swirl. So just to know, like, him and Chong, they met on this movie and fell in love, and they were together for a long time. They were together so long. They did another movie together where Chong's father, Tommy Chong, you know, from Cheech and Chong, Tommy Chong is her father, and he did a movie with his whole family. He did a movie with her. C. Thomas Howell and her were dating at the time, so he put him in it. His wife and his wife's son. They put they were in it. It was called Far Out Man. It's actually really goofy. I'm pretty sure it's lower than Soul Man. But it was a great film. It's a good goofy thing if you want to watch it. It's silly too, because Cheech even makes a little guest appearance in there. So he got all his family and friends in there, you know, all the family. It's good. If you guys enjoy this video, thumbs it up, subscribe it out, like it for me, pass it to your friends, and we can do other movies. My mom's birthday, like I said, the national holiday is this month, so we will be talking to mom soon. And other things in the Elvis community will be done. I did just do a reel for Myrna Smith, because she's like my favorite in the Elvis community. One of my favorites for sure. She's in my top 10, probably in my top 5 of favorite Elvis people. Separate from Elvis, because Elvis is like in the league all his own, you know. But yeah, so yeah, but just remember, sometimes you have to sit and chill. Deuces.